Welcome to India Market Open. I'm Niraj, Shah, and with me is Mihika Barve. Good morning, Mihika.
Good morning.
And it's an interesting day of trade because, frankly, I doubt too much of volumes will happen. It's a bit of a trial session, and let's wait and watch how this day shapes up. Though in the past, we've seen multiple times that sessions like these tend to throw up some surprises. I really doubt that there'll be too much in the session today, but certainly some bit of what happened in yesterday's session could get factored into today's trade as well. Now just pull up what the markets have done for the week thus far, or even what the Nifty did in trade yesterday, for example, and give you a sense. I mean, we've of course eclipsed new highs in trade yesterday midway through trade, which is a good sign. But just look at the 1 month performance, yes, about 2%, but effectively what the indices did yesterday, which is that strong 1.7% close, was really a breathtaking move. We've been talking about this on the trade setup for the last so many days about how the markets were giving you a reason to cheer and not necessarily go down. I think that's what's happened. So very strong moves in trade yesterday, very strong close in trade yesterday. Forget the 1 month chart, even if you just look at the 1 week chart. I'll give you a correct picture. Even if you look at yesterday's performance for the Nifty, that 1.72% uptick that we've seen in Friday's trade was something which was breathtaking. Now, I wasn't there for the better part of the second half yesterday on air, but Mihika was in office. And Mihika, some pretty strong moves into themes that you track and the market at large too. What stood out for you?
The oil pack was in the positive, around 1.5%. Oil India was up 6%. We even had BPCL, we had Castrol that were in the green yesterday. Also some stocks that were in focus on the back of news flow that maintained positive momentum. We had a CG Power, though it did pair some of its gains. It was up around 6% while closing, but it went to a high of 11% on the back of a joint venture that was approved by the government to set up a semiconductor outsourced semiconductor assembly and test facility. It has an investment outlay of 7,600 crores and is in, it's done in collaboration with two international companies. We also had Suven Pharmaceuticals that was in focus on the back of merger news flow. And yeah, significant moves in the momentum continued till closing, like we all saw.
Yeah, yes, indeed. So, the standout performers, really, if you look at it, was what happened to banks. Now, banks really perked up in trade yesterday. And typically, when you have banks, when you have Reliance Industries, and when you have Larsen & Toubro, all performing in tandem, very difficult to not see such a positive move on the index. So look at what happened to IndusInd Bank, look at what happened to ICICI Bank, look at what happened to State Bank of India. Some very strong performance that came in from each of these. And I think that is something that people will be watching out for. Can banks do an encore? Independent of what happens to today's session, can banks do an encore in trade for a better part of next week to take the momentum higher? So that is the first part of the conversation. The second part of the conversation is really what's happened to maybe a stock like Larsen & Toubro, what's happened to some of the metal names, because they've been waiting and itching to move up for a while now. Finally we're seeing a move for the likes of JSW Steel, Tata Steel, etc. in Friday's session, and a very strong up move there. So I think that is something that people will be keeping a keen eye out for. So that's the long and short of stuff to keep an eye out for. But there are some stocks to watch that you should be watching out for as well. And I think Mihika will talk about that in a moment. But the pre-open rate's about to begin. For whatever it's worth, it'll be interesting to see if we carry on the momentum that we had formed in trade yesterday into the session today, early morning as well, or no. So I think we'll be keeping a keen eye for that. Mihika, pre-open rate's about to kick in, and a lot of things to be kept in mind in the session today while we wait for the index rates to settle.
Yes. So the pre-open rates, Nifty does to show marginal strength up 0.4. Watch out for, but gives you somewhat an indication on what the market might open at. It's mixed reactions as of now when it comes to both the benchmarks. Maybe some stock-specific pre-open rates. Or why don't we pull out Nifty 50 pull-out rates first?
Yeah. So, well, I think maybe even if you give these rates a chance to settle down a bit, I think a keen eye out for the steel names. So whether the likes of Tata Steel and JSW Steel pick up some of the steam from yesterday's session or no. For now, it looks like they might, but let's give them a chance to settle before we try and talk more about them. Larsen & Toubro will certainly be in focus. There's a big report yesterday from multiple, including BNP Paribas and a few other brokerages, which spoke extensively about how, while there are concerns around Middle Eastern flows, and Aramco has laid out some of those as well, the spends might continue, and that should certainly be in focus. So these are a few things that people should be keeping in mind when they're looking at a Larsen & Toubro in the session. And of course, like I said, just watch out for banks. Axis, Kotak, ICICI, IndusInd, SBI, that whole pack had such a blowout day of trade yesterday. Difficult to get that maybe in today's session, in these trial sessions, but be that as it may, I think it'll be interesting to see if we indeed perk up a little bit for some of those banks, or do they stay quiet? I think what we'll try and do out here on NDTV Profit is not try and tell you too much about what could happen in today's trade, but more try and center it around what are the key takeaways from the last 5 days and things that stood out, which you should definitely keep in mind when you're trying to think about trading and investment from the next week. So I think that is to be kept in mind. You know, the beauty about the trade for the last few days, Mihika, has been that while people have been waiting for a correction to come, just the swiftness with which things are getting bought into was evident in yesterday's session as well. So if you look at the last 10 days performance, right? We've had a corrective move come in intermittently. The market's trying to correct a little bit here and there. And suddenly, one swift day, and the markets have just taken all of those losses out and knocking on new highs. It just takes the wind out of the sails of the bears. If you're a bear and trying to think of what could happen at some point of time, it just knocks you out because you're bracing yourself for a position which could correct, which could go down slowly with volumes maybe in certain cases, and then one fine day the bulls come back, maybe aided by global factors, maybe aided by local factors, and you hit new highs. So suddenly, if you're a bear, you're wondering, hey, you know, is this a market that is just not cut out for me? Because we even did this study, Mihika, the month of January. Okay. So Jan 15th to Feb 12th, the markets corrected from 22,200 odd to maybe 21,300. On Feb 12th, they were at 21,600. From 21,600 back to 22,200 in a matter of 5 days. So suddenly, all that was lost in a month gets recouped in almost a week. Now, similarly, what happened yesterday has done exactly that, right? The markets have kind of corrected, showed a little bit of a weak hand early in the week, and poof, comes Friday, and suddenly everything is taken care of. Look at these graphics, Feb 2021. I mean, this is, of course, the question about whether we formed a temporary top in Feb. And by the way, I think this argument gets negated by the first day of March itself, because if you thought that the top was done in Feb, then March 1st, you've seen that argument goes out of the window. So it's pretty interesting as to what's happening out there, Mihika.
Yes. Why don't just, market open in 10 days, but some of the key stocks that you should watch out in trade today. First up, we have Asian Paints. Now, the company has received a letter which allots 166 acres of land, and this land is situated in Pithampur, Madhya Pradesh. Now, earlier on Jan 7th, if I'm not wrong, the company proposed to set up a water-based manufacturing facility, and this facility will have a capacity of 4 lakh kiloliters per annum, and will have an investment of 2,000 crores. So this land that the company has been allotted will be used to set up this manufacturing plant. And Asian Paints has been in focus for a while with Grasim finally announcing its facility expansion. 6 facilities that are supposed to be launched. 3 of them already launched, and they've set up a goal of 10,000 crore revenue in the next 3 years. And Asian Paints has shown some weakness on the back of this news, but some brokerages do suggest that Asian Paints will stand ground and hold its market share. Then we have Torrent Power, and there are 2 news flow behind this. First one, it's received a letter of award from NTPC Vidyut Vyapar Nigam. Now, this is to supply 770 megawatts power from March 16, 2024 to June 30th. And this supply contract can also be extended till July 15. Now, the supply power is based from a gas-based power project, and the company is estimated a minimum revenue of 440 crores. Second, it's also received a 2,700 crore order from Railway Energy Management Company to install 325 megawatts of renewable capacity and also supply 100 megawatts of round-and-clock renewable power. Now, the project is to be commissioned within 24 months of signing the purchase agreement, and the contract period is at 25 years. And currently, the renewable capacity under execution via Torrent Power is 2.6 gigawatts. And lastly, at Welspun Corp, now its subsidiary, which is called Sensex Advanced Plastic, it's going to set up a manufacturing facility. Now, this will be a facility for plastic pipes and water storage tanks, and it will be situated in Madhya Pradesh. Investment is set to be at 400 crores, and the project is going to be implemented over the next 6 quarters. Well, these were some of the stocks to watch in my radar. Niraj, what about you?
No, so since you spoke about Asian Paints, just before we move any further, let's hear out the views of Pramod Gubbi. Now, Marcellus holds Asian Paints in their portfolios for a long time. And what does the competitive scenario as it stands currently mean for Asian Paints over the medium to the long term? Here are this set of conversations that he had with Pramod Gubbi. Presumably because of the large competition coming in, paints, Pramod, the last 2-3 months actually, I've taken a bit of a hit. I was looking at the performance of Asian Paints, the benchmark, right, which you guys probably still have in your portfolio, or maybe you don't, but at least you used to. You know, an underperformance of 18% to the Nifty is not something that we are used to seeing Asian Paints do, because it's been this bedrock of performance all through the last decade and maybe even for the last 2-3 years. There's this wonderful chart that we have about how the multiples of Asian Paints have gone through the roof since 2012. And suddenly, Pramod, we find Asian Paints is available at valuations that it last traded at back in 2014. Now, my question to you is, are these concerns overdone, or is it fair to be concerned considering that the paint sector hasn't seen a deep-pocketed, large manufacturing competitor come in a really long time?
Yeah, I don't think there are easy answers. I think the two extremes are easy to wear with, that new competition will come in and disrupt the whole thing. Nor is it fair to say that, look, Asian Paints has successfully faced competition throughout its history and will be able to overcome this easily. Truth, like always, lies in the middle, and that's what makes our jobs easier to figure out. On balance, where does this lie? It's not true that there hasn't been a competitor of this nature. Remember, Sherwin-Williams, the world's largest paints company, came to India and couldn't compete, or for whatever reason left the country. This has always been the case, and this will always be the case. If you want to invest in businesses which make lots of profits, you'll have to be prepared to face competitive entry. Remember, that profit pool itself is a magnet for competition. Nobody would like to enter an industry where the incumbent doesn't make money. So in some ways, the continuous entry of new competition in this sector is testament to the attractiveness of this industry. And the fact that the incumbents have managed to hold fort, not just hold their market share, but also increase market share over time, also indicates the presence of entry barriers. Why have some of the world's best paints companies struggled to compete in India? This suggests there are certain moats or sustainable competitive advantages. And from our assessment, a lot of the moats lie on the supply side, supply chain rather, where it is a hard product to distribute across the country with so many SKUs. So you need plenty of data to drive efficiencies in the supply chain, which in turn are passed on to the dealers. The dealer economics become far more attractive, and that's what the incumbents have done to hold fort over the many decades that they've operated. Having said that, never say never. The next big competitor could have tricks up the sleeve which are very very different from those who tried to play this in the past. Our job is to keep our eyes open and see what those initiatives are, whether they actually threaten the dominance of the incumbents from the past, or will they continue to face challenges like the competitors of the past have done. The market seems to be suggesting that indeed this will be a tough ask to defend. Having said that, the market could also simply be saying that, look, unless we figure where this settles, would rather stay out of it, which is why you're seeing this play out closer to the launch or the entry of the new competitor, while the news was out for a couple of years now. In fact, the stock hadn't gone anywhere, but the correction has been much sharper in the last few weeks around the launch time. Our job is to act on data and evidence rather than anticipation. Like I said, it's easier to take the extreme stance and say that, look, we're not really concerned about it. Our job is to be concerned and watch it. But at the same time, we can't simply say that the competitor has come in, so let's get out of it. We'll need to make a more objective assessment of the situation.
Just wondering, Pramod, 60-second answer because we're out of time. But do you fear multiples, margins, and ROCs for Asian Paints and the Bergers, etc., coming under pressure?
Yeah, in the shorter term, yes, obviously, you've seen the actions from these players already, right? They've already started cutting prices. But to the extent they've already preempted some of these, they have invested in backward integration by bringing in manufacturing in some of their supply inputs in fold, which adds a few percentage of the margins, which becomes a little bit of an armor for them to cut prices without compromising on the margins. But having said that, I don't think we should expect status quo. A competitor of this size, a capacity addition of this size should definitely have some impact on ROCs and margins in the short run. But the longer term trajectory depends on how the incumbents react. Like I said, I've shared one of the strategies in their arsenal, which is backward integration. Some of them invested in new growth lines, which could offset some of the loss of market share or ROCs and margins crunching. Right. Therefore, longer term, we still remain quite positive.
Yes, well, that was the view on Asian Paints. Some short-term impact, however, in the long run, it does look to stand its ground. We also have some bulk and block deal details in terms of buyers and sellers that did come overnight. First with Suven Pharmaceuticals, which was in focus yesterday, up to an intraday high of 13%. Now, Abu Dhabi Investment Authority stable bought 15.74 lakh shares, which is 0.61% of the company at 698.15 apiece. And Amansa Holdings sold 31.26 lakh shares, which is 1.22% of the company at 689.19 apiece. Little background on Suven Pharmaceuticals recently announced its merger with Cohance Life Sciences merger, and the transaction period is expected to carry forward in the next 12 to 15 months. We also had Ultramarine and Pigments, which did close 5% higher. Swayam Rajiv Doshi bought 1.47 lakh shares, which is around 0.5% of the company at 399.96 apiece. And lastly, we had a block deal which was in Star Health and Allied Insurance. Not much movement in terms of stock price was down about 2%, but Apis Growth 6 sold 99.6 lakh shares. But market opens in 35 seconds, and I'll toss it out to Niraj. Niraj, what are the opening rates looking like?
Yeah, well, let's just wait. I think autos could be in focus today, Mihika, because of the numbers that have come out, and I think some of the ones that have come in post-market hours, two-wheelers in particular, I think we'll be keeping a keen eye out for those names. So that's one pocket that you certainly keep a keen eye out for, and that is autos. Aside of that, the stocks in news that we spoke about, maybe in Asian Paints because of the capacity setting up that they are doing. I don't know if the market reads into it as reacting to competition or being proactive. I think time will tell. But first, the rates today on this special session, and the Nifty about 1/3%, so the momentum continuing. Look at that rate, 22,400. Now, we've been crying hoarse on the trade setup about how the dip was an opportunity to buy because indicators were indicating that, not that we have a special insight. But yes, the markets have done well. Bring up the bank Nifty because that was in thick of action yesterday. for now flattish. Mid caps and small caps should come up on your screen and see if there's a movement there. Even on a day like this, there's some activity at the broader end of the spectrum. So heartening to see. Bring up the heat map and show you what's moving and what's not. Well, Hero, top of the file, not surprising with the numbers that they've dished out relative to expectations, by the way. Divi's also doing okay. Remember, from amongst the 3 two-wheeler majors, and Royal Enfield is, Eicher is two-wheelers plus CVs, but the pure play two-wheelers, Bajaj and TVS were expected to show very strong growth. Hero wasn't relatively to the two of them. So good start for Hero, good start for the metal names. Tata Steel out there in the green. Hospitals see a bit of a comeback with Apollo Hospitals certainly out there, but there is a bit of a pharma flavor to this because there is Divi's, there is Apollo Hospitals, both of them in the green in the top 10 as well, and IT2 doing okay. Net, most things are doing okay. Very few stocks in the red in the session. And before I toss it to Mihika for what's happening at the broader end of the spectrum, if we can get the Nifty 500 performers on the screen and just show you what are the top gainers and losers individually. I'm sure Mihika has a keen eye out for specific stocks that are moving because it's the mid caps and the small caps which are doing the heavy lifting. But look at that list. There is some bit of weakness for Metropolis even today. Some bit of weakness for Oberoi because that's not had a great run in the recent past. But what's doing well? Global Health, Star Health, so clearly healthcare in focus here as well. Some bit of gains for Torrent Power, that is a stock in news. And Tata Investment and Data Patterns on the BSE 500 are also in the green. TV18 makes a bit of a comeback today, so that is interesting. Mihika, what are you spotting?
Yes, so let's start with the benchmark. Nifty 50 up around 0.24%. Let's talk about just some of the stocks that we did have in focus and on our radar on the back of news flow. We do have Torrent Power, like I mentioned, which is up 4.6%. Z Entertainment, which is up 2%, and this was on the back of a Delhi court order that was was given to Bloomberg to take down a certain article that alleged corporate governance issues in the company. Hero Motor up about around 2% on the back of numbers as well, and these were better than expected. The company recorded a total sales of 4.68 lakh units versus 3.94 a year ago, and total exports were also significantly up. We also have a Ganesh Ecosphere, which is in around 1.74%, but how about some of the ones that are not doing so well? One is Rainbow Children's Medicare, which was buzzing in the back of volume just around 2 days ago. The company has inaugurated new 80 beds, hospital beds in Tamil Nadu, and post this, the total capacity of the company will increase to 1,885 beds, and the total project cost was around 60 crores. We also have Info Edge, which is down about 2%. Axis Bank slightly in the red, 0.07%. Some of the other, companies we could maybe take out on the back of news flow is FSN E-commerce, which is Nykaa. Now the company is set to expand its global footprint with the launch of Nysaa, which is its first ever beauty retail store. There you have it, up about 1.3%. We also had Ganesh Ecosphere, which I would like to, just highlight. The company has announced the start of commercial operations at its subsidiary production lines for recycled polyester staple fiber and RPET chips in Telangana. We also had Lemon Tree Hotels, if we could bring that up on the screen. The company signed a franchise agreement for an upcoming hotel in Udaipur, and it's under the company brand Key Lights. But why don't we go to a little bit of the broader markets? Let's bring out the Nifty 500. Let's see if you have any kind of significant up moves right there.
There are a few stocks that I highlighted, Mihika, like Data Patterns and Tata Investment, which are doing okay. Yeah. But the interesting one that has come out today, this morning, is Torrent Power, and that is doing well. But more importantly, Mihika, and because we have our guests as well, just before we go to them, the good part is that the indices are now trading at fresh highs for themselves. So that is yet another move. I mean, just a 30-40 point move, but at fresh highs. Maybe we go to our guest first, and then try and mark some other stocks. Rajesh Palvia, SVP Technical and Derivatives Research at Axis Securities, and Soni Patnaik, AVP JM Financial Services, with us on the show. Both of you, thank you so much. I know it's a tough day to be working on a Saturday morning, but really appreciate you taking the time out. Niraj here, good morning. Soni, as would have it, Women first, especially in a week when Women's Day is around the corner. But thanks for taking the time out. And what did you make of the move yesterday, Sony, and kind of follow-up reaction that we might see for a better part of next week? Never mind what we're seeing today.
Hi, good morning, Niraj, and thank you so much for having me on the show. So I think yesterday's move was on the account of the rollover action that we'd seen, and the rollovers are quite on the longer side from February to March series. 21,900 was holding as a very strong support, and the even Feb and expiry was pretty much closer to the 22,000 level itself. So going forward also, it will mark as a very crucial support as long as 22,000 is not breaching anymore. We can see Nifty consolidating in this level for some time. It can test 22,600, which is pretty much on the cards going forward. So I think it will be more like on a buy on dip structure for Nifty. Anything closer to 22,300, 22,200 in that range can be act as a buying dip, buying range. Keeping a stop loss of 22,000 and targets of 22,600. But if you ask for the entire March series, of course, I think the data is quite bullish. It can even test 23,000 plus levels going forward. So I think it's quite positive for Nifty. Similarly for Bank Nifty also, long rollovers and very strong it looks. The moment it can cross 47,500, you'll see a very sharp short covering in Bank Nifty, which can lead it towards 49,000 plus levels in March series itself. Crucial support for Bank Nifty is 46,000 as of now. As long as it's holding, it will definitely try to take out the resistance, and then March can be a super bullish month as of now.
Okay. Rajesh, good morning. Are you constructive as well? The last 4 years, we were doing the statistic check yesterday, that the last 4 years since COVID, we've had a temporary top in February, resulting in a lower low in the month of March. Somehow the 1st of March has changed that narrative quite completely.
So good morning, Niraj. So this time it's a very different mood for the market, and the kind of traction which we are getting in the market, whatever minor dips which we are witnessing in the market is getting a good buying interest in the decline. A lot of money is waiting for, to buy the stocks, buy the, good quality stocks in the decline. The series, the beginning of this series is clearly indicating that, for March, yes, we may see another round of, series of, a new all-time high for Nifty, and possibly Bank Nifty may also show some catch-up rally, and possibly Bank Nifty can also contribute to this upward momentum of market, as most of the banking stocks from the private as well as from the PSU space has shown good recovery on the very first day of March series. Even the sectors which were in consolidation like metal, cement, and other stocks which were in consolidation have started, participating to this rally. And even after the corrective move, again, PSU stocks again, started, showing good traction in terms of buying. So we believe this is a broader buying, which is taking place in the beginning of this March series, and we believe this momentum can exceed. And 22,500, that could be the immediate level which we can see in the Nifty. And possibly, if we cross those levels, then this rally can extend further, and we can head further higher towards 23,000, even 23,200 kind of level for Nifty also, as most of the large cap stocks are in good shape, and that clearly indicating like automobile is showing very good, traction. So these all large cap stocks are clearly indicating that, we may see a good amount of rally in March series also. So I think the sector where we are focusing at this moment, that is metal, is looking very promising. Another sector, that is real estate. Third one is your pharma space is also, looking attractive at this moment. And I think oil and gas, these 3-4 sectors which one can look to buy in this rally. And banking is another sector where one can take a bet to, play this March series. Most of the sectors have shown good rollover action. So we believe that, this momentum can continue for March series also.
Okay, so 22,500 level that you could watch out for. Rajesh did highlight certain sectors. Sony, I'd like to ask you what are the sectors that you feel like that if March is a strong session for the markets, what sectors would you bet on?
So the first would be cement sector, very strong rollovers on the longer side, followed by automobile, metals, and oil and gas. These are very strong sectors. Even banking, especially in PSU banks, you've seen good rollovers. In private banks, especially HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank, they've seen strong rollovers on the longer side. So these would be some of the top picks. Specifically if we talk about under the sector in cement sector, Ambuja Cement and Grasim, they've shown long rollovers. If we talk about metals, then SAIL, Tata Steel, NMDC, they've also shown very long rollovers. So I think these would be some of the sectors and the stock picks to bet on for the March series.
Okay, thank you. And Rajesh, you did mention about banking. Now, I wanted to know if you have certain specific picks in the sector, and what do you think? PSU banks or private banks, which would show more strength? What are the numbers looking like?
So I think from PSU Bank, SBI is looking very promising. The kind of stability which we are seeing on a technical structure, that clearly shows that SBI is going to have a continuity of this uptrend, and possibly we can see the target towards 830 to 840 on a positional basis. So SBI is one stock where we focus at this moment. From PSU space, another stock that we like at this current juncture, that is Punjab National Bank. Very stable structure. The kind of breakout which we are witnessing on a longer term time frame, that clearly shows that this stock is looking very promising for positional perspective. Those who wants to take some bet on a positional perspective, they can look to buy PNB also. And on a positional basis, we are projecting target towards 150 to 160 for PNB in coming month. So buy and accumulate could be the one strategy in PNB. Keep your stop loss at around 115, and for SBI your stop loss at around 740. Even from the private space, ICICI Bank is also looking promising. Stock is almost trading near to its all-time high trajectory, and the kind of momentum which we are witnessing since last couple of months, that clearly shows that there is a sustained buying action is taking place in the stock. This is the fourth consecutive month where we are seeing higher high-low formation. That is clearly indicating there is a buying interest in the stock. So ICICI Bank is another stock from private banking space, and we believe that this momentum can continue, and we can see a target towards 1150 to 1160. So one can buy and accumulate ICICI Bank also with stop loss of 1050.
Okay, so SBI among the PSU pack and ICICI among the private. I'll take one question before we head on for a break. Soni, you mentioned the oil and gas space. Any specific picks over there? Because the OMCs have run up quite a bit in the past month, more than around 20% for all the three companies. So what are your views on the same?
So definitely, I think with very strong rollovers, the top picks in that sector would be HPCL, BPCL, of course. They are holding on to very strong levels. Even in the correction that Nifty had seen 2 days ago, they did not break those support levels. If we talk about BPCL specifically, then 600 holds a very strong support. And, it's continuing as a very, aggressive put writing can also be seen at 600 put levels for BPCL. So I think any closer to the support, you can definitely go into and reinitiate the buy for this particular stock. Keep a stop losses at 600, and it can definitely bounce back up to 680, 700 levels for March series. Similarly, for Hind Petro, if you look at it, has also held on to its support of 500. Closer to 500, if you see, you can just reinitiate the longs around those levels. 500 is a good support, and the upper side target could be 560, 580 for March series.
Thank you so much, Soni. There you have it, HPCL and BPCL. But it's time for a quick break. We do have more news and updates on the other side, and we continue to get insight from our guests. Stay tuned to NDTV Profit.
All right, back with the markets right here on NDTV Profit. I was just trying to take a look at stocks which are doing well today. IEX has some moves to itself, 4.5% higher. Suven continues its run, 4.5% higher for that one yet again. And, very interestingly, Havells, ever since the Jeffries upgrade came in sometime last week, Havells has had a really good run. If you pull up the 1 month performance of Havells, you'll see this distinct optimism both on price and volumes in the last 10 odd trading sessions. So look at that move. This is the 1 month chart, but since the last 10, 15 odd sessions, there's been this very strong up move that is beginning to Havells. It's a trending chart. Now, I don't know if it's got to do with the belief that cooling solution companies typically have a great margin. I've been told by people that Voltas, for example, in the month of March typically tends to do well. Haven't verified this, by the way, and I wonder what Voltas did yesterday. Was it the 1 week chart or one week chart of Voltas might give us a sense as well. A bit of an uptick there, and it's up 3% yet again today too. So interesting moves there. Let's just wait and watch if these stocks last. Rajesh, can I come to you on this? Cooling solution players, particularly Havells, but maybe a view on Voltas too, because Havells has had just this very strong trending move the last few days.
So yeah, definitely Niraj, stock now managed to give breakout of its multiple supply zone, and looking at the breakout on a monthly chart, that clearly shows that this stock can continue further more upside. So stock is looking very promising on a positional perspective also, because it's almost a consolidation of almost a 2 year, and the range breakout of this 2 year consolidation, that clearly shows that trend is now shifting towards the bullish side on the longer term perspective also. So I think one should hold the position even at the current market price. Also, one can look to buy this stock. So Havells is looking promising. And on positional perspective, we are projecting target towards 1680 to 1740 on the higher side in the coming months. But for trading perspective, those who wants to buy for near-term perspective, they can buy with a stop loss of 1555. And on a trading perspective, the immediate target which we can see on a short-term period, that is around 1630 to 1640. So Havells is looking promising across all time frame. And we believe that this momentum can continue further in the coming months also.
Sony, you want to come in on maybe a Voltas as well? I was told seasonally it's a great month of March. You're constructive on March any which ways, and considering that summer is around the corner, if not already in, maybe some of these companies have a sentimental positive too.
Right, I think, apart from the sentimental positive that we can see, just on charts, it has been in a sideways range. If we can look at the lower end of the range, it's 1080. On the higher side, at max, it is 1130, 1140. As long as the range breakout does not happen, there will be difficult for Voltas to, just predict and put aside. So any fresh longs that can be added in Voltas can only be above the 1140 levels, and above that, 1200 can be on cards. So I think one can just wait for the resistance to be taken out to initiate any sort of a fresh long strategy.
Okay, thank you so much, Sony. Rajesh, I want to ask you view on healthcare, hospitals in specific, since they have been in news on the back of the healthcare treatment rates being standardized. We have Narayana Hrudayalaya, which is showing weakness today. Even a Max Healthcare that is down in trade today. Do you have any view on this sector or any specific stocks that you would like to, shed light on? Rajesh?
Yeah. So healthcare stocks have shown some traction in last couple of weeks, but since last 2-3 trading session, some profit taking is taking place on a higher side. If we talk about Narayana Hrudayalaya, stock has corrected below 20-day moving average. That clearly shows that some weakness is taking place on the near-term setup. Now stock is almost trading near to its 50-day moving average, that is at around 1300 kind of zone. If at all stocks holds this level, then some buying action we can see. If it breaks below 1300, then possibly we may see continuation of this down move, and then stock can move further lower towards its next major support area of 1260 to 1230. That's the major level where we can see Narayana Hrudayalaya to correct further. If we talk about another stocks like Max Healthcare, again, there is corrective move is taking place since last couple of weeks. Looking at the near-term structure, we believe that if it continues to trade below 800 mark, then possibly stock may face furthermore supply pressure as stock now broken down below to its 20-day as well as the 50-day moving average. So that clearly shows that some low confidence on the stock at this juncture, and possibly we may see furthermore pressure in the stock for Max Healthcare as well as the Narayan Hrudayalaya. So I think Max Healthcare can continue its down move towards 680 kind of level. That's the major support area on the downside. So I think one should avoid at this moment until the stock not crosses above 820, 830 mark on a higher side on a weekly closing basis. I think trend is likely to remain on the weaker side, and we may see furthermore supply pressure is likely to be there in the stock in coming trading sessions also.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. We'll stick to this since we spoke about Narayana Healthcare. We got a chance to speak to Viren Shetty, who is the executive VC at Narayana Health. After the SE directed hospitals to set standard procedure rates, let's hear what he had to say.
See, the truth also is that what is the nature of the thing that they want? Does the government really want a uniform price for every single procedure across every single hospital, no matter the quality, no matter the infrastructure? In which case, yes, there will be a tremendous impact. This will be impact on the scale of what this country went through in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, where the price of everything was fixed. So what happened is the supply naturally came down. There has been an explosion in private healthcare because there's an unmet market need, and there is, in our country, an ability for people to get healthcare at the price that they can afford for most people, not for everyone. So if you disincentivize investing in quality, investing in high-end infrastructure, then you won't see any more of that anymore. So it will be a massive impact if you fix a common price for everything, no matter what.
Well, there you have it. My next question, Sonia, I'd like to ask you, we have Torrent Power, which is in focus today, up about 4% on the back of 2 orders that the company recently got in the past. Your views on maybe Torrent Power or the power and renewable energy space as a whole?
I think, sector has seen a very strong uptrend continuing in the past 1 quarter or so. And Torrent Power is no different from that, uptrend. So I think from current levels, it's looking decent, I would say. There's a resistance around 1200. Only if it's able to cross 1200, you can see further upside above the 1240, 1230 odd levels. And then, it can also head towards 1300. On the downside, also, it does not have a lot of, downside positions that you can see as of now. It's quite capped or limited downside. It has multiple support starting from 1120, 1130 odd levels. That's a very strong support. So as long as it is holding on to 1120, let's say, it can cross 1200 and head towards 1280, 1300 odd levels. So I think it's decent. One can just, initiate a buy at current levels, keep your stop loss at 1120 and then a target of 1300.
The interesting thing is it's a pocket, Rajesh, come in, which has seen some very strong buying on almost every single dip. And I'm not just talking about power generation. You look at what's happened to an Inox Wind or a Suzlon, or for that matter, PFC, REC. Corrections get bought into very, very swiftly, and they make new highs. Today's session as well, these stocks are fairly stable. It's a wide bucket, Rajesh. Multiple themes out there, power generation companies, green companies, what have you. Is there a first amongst equals? Let's say if I'm giving you a 6-month time horizon, Rajesh, and asking you to pick 1 or 2 power names which could do well, which one would fit the bill?
So yeah, definitely. So whole power and power related stocks are showing good traction, and the kind of structure which we are seeing across all time frame, that clearly shows that this sector is likely to perform further from here onward also. So from that space, I think Power Grid is well placed at this moment, and we believe that the kind of formation which we are seeing on a daily, on a weekly time frame, that clearly shows that this stock can continue further more upside, and possibly we can see a target towards 340 to 360 on a higher side. So one can look to buy and accumulate the Power Grid in any minor corrective move. One can keep stop loss towards 265. Another stock that we like is Power Finance Corporation, PFC. very strong chart structure. And the kind of pullback which we have seen in the previous session, that clearly shows that, stock is now, ready to, again take a charge, and we can see again, all-time high trajectory also for this stock. So after a brief corrective move of last 2-3 weeks, now stock is showing good traction in terms of buying, and we believe that, if stocks continues to hold above 390 level, then possibly PFC can exhibit good amount of rally going forward, and possible target we can see towards 450, 460, and followed by 500 plus kind of target we can see. So very good buying interest is there in most of the power stocks. And we believe that, one should adopt a buy on dips kind of strategy in this sector. And going forward, this sector can deliver good amount of rally, and one can make a good profit in this sector.
Okay. Well, that's the view on power. Stay on, both of you. We get into one more break. But as we hit that break, here's an NDTV exclusive from none other than Bill Gates himself, offering valuable insights into India's digital economy. Listen in.
Well, there's no doubt that being able to register citizens and get government payments to them directly, they don't have to go to a bank branch, nobody's asking for their part of that cash. The pandemic is a wonderful example where actually going to branches wasn't going to work no matter what. And so the amount that's been saved, and now the amount that the government's interacting in a rich way with citizens. For example, I saw in Odisha where they'd registered the farmers and they understood their land and their crops. And so they're sending them a regular bulletin, and they're communicating about pests and what you need to do. So this is a case where India's been out in the lead. India did this thing at scale. They made it work, and the Gates Foundation has been involved in some of those projects. We're also involved in helping India show other countries. So right now, there's 15 other countries at various stages of adoption, which a lot of that was kicked off by the way that Modi made that a centerpiece of the G20 meeting.
It's ultimately about empowerment, right? It's not just about efficiency, it's about empowering people, women, young adults. And do you believe that's a model that needs to be replicated elsewhere?
Well, definitely. Paperwork in government and being confused about different policies, and, having the powerful people sort of take away the payments that should come to you. These systems are really critical. Even like collecting the GST or understanding what's going on with the population. We'll see it get richer and richer in verticals like health and agriculture. And every time I come to the country, I get updated, whether it's by government groups like in Odisha, entrepreneurs like Nandan Nilekani sit me down and show me what he's seen. And, we're pleased to be a partner both here and in the global quest.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the Odisha visit? I do know that there was a lot that you were shown in terms of hard data backing agricultural growth. What exactly did you see, and how do you feel that that's something that potentially works or does work?
Well, you've got a lot of farmers, and you can never have enough extension workers. I love extension workers. They're very important. We can empower them to be more productive. But this idea, if you have a record of, okay, where is my land? What are the crops that I grow? Take the latest satellite data and see, okay, are they maturing well? Take all the reports of insects or other pests. Look at the weather forecast. The expertise that a big farmer can afford and almost takes for granted, we can now make sure that even the smallholder, is getting the benefits of all this expertise. And so it's digital farming, and it's all about equality.
Welcome back to NDTV Profit. And we are watching the market open of this special live trading session today. And let's get a look at the markets. I want to pull out the sectoral indices. We do have Nifty Media, which is the top sectoral gainer today, and we also have Nifty Realty and the PSU banks that are showing strength, and metals continue to show strength that you have been seeing for the past week. I want to toss to our guest, Rajesh. I want your view on Realty as a pack. Most of the constituents of Nifty Realty are in the green today as well, and in terms of sectoral indices, the index has outperformed most of the others in the past year.
So Realty as a space we like, as I mentioned in my opening remark also, that this sector we like, and we believe that real estate space can exhibit a good amount of rally in going forward also, as long-term structure for Realty stocks are looking so promising, and the kind of momentum which we are seeing in most of the real estate stocks, that clearly shows that buying interest is there in this sector, and the sustained buying action is taking place in most of the real estate space stocks. So DLF is our preferred choice at this moment, and DLF we believe that this rally can extend, and we can see a 4-digit kind of target in very short period of time for DLF. So we are projecting target of 1000 and 1040 for DLF. On a positional perspective, one can look to buy this stock in any kind of minor dip with stop loss of 890. Another stock that we like from F&O space on real estate space, that is Godrej Property. That stock is also looking very promising. Series of higher top, higher bottom formation is taking place on a weekly chart. That clearly shows that there is a sustained buying. Stock is moving in upsloping channel, and looking at the overall structure, we believe that Godrej Property can also exhibit good amount of rally, and possible target towards 2600 to 2650 we can see in the Godrej Property also. Another stock that we like from that space is Lodha, Macrotech developer. That stock is also looking very promising, very strong rally we have witnessed in last couple of months. Brief consolidation is taking place. Looking at this consolidation action, we believe that once stock manages to cross about 1200, 1215, then possibly Lodha can also exhibit good amount of rally towards 1350 to 1400 kind of zone also. So one can look to buy this stock also, as overall structure for Lodha is also looking promising. One can keep stop loss at around 1130 to buy and accumulate this stock also.
Macrotech out there, and real estate in particular. DLF has had a really strong move. I'm looking at some of the others. I think stocks which have done really well in the recent past, 7-day charts, for example, of a Zen Technologies, which is locked on a 5% upper circuit today. I think the third day on a trot now that we've had Zen clock in that up move. So very strong move today, and very strong move for the last 2 or 3 sessions. At 9:54, the stock is clocking in fresh highs for itself. Paisalo Digital is the other one. We spoke to the management a few days back, up another 3% today, and I presume it's not just today's move, but the last 1 week or the last 1 month would have shown some very strong moves. Look at that, 1 week performance, 27% for Paisalo Digital. So that's the other one that you should keep in mind. And Sona Comstar is the third one, knocking on the doors of 700. Unless I'm wrong, this one is trading at fresh highs too. Sony, 2 or 3 names out there, very strong moves. Maybe you don't get a chance to buy them today, particularly Zentech. But do the charts look strong, and are the targets higher on any of these?
Definitely, I think Zentech, it has, if you look at the weekly charts, there's a very strong breakout on weekly charts above 900 levels. So I think the stock can still continue to outperform the rest of the stocks that you just discussed. And, you can look for targets of 980 to 1000. I think it's looking quite strong. If there's any sort of intraday dip towards 930, 940 in the range, it should be a reasonable level to enter again. However, if it's not, one can just continue to hold with this, trailing stop loss of 900 and then look for targets of 980 to 1000.
Some very strong moves there, but Paisalo Digital, there's something happening here. The stock has had a really good run and continues to do that. The other one, Mihika, that stood out for me, Sangvi Movers. Now we talk about wind power and the transportation of turbines, and this one is right up there, right? The market leader in that bucket, 1228, 2.5% higher. Look at the 1-year chart of Sangvi Movers, and you will see the kind of gains that multiple stocks have done this, but this one stands out really. Extremely strong showing for a stock which doesn't usually trade with very high volumes, so that's interesting as well. Either of these two charts, Rajesh, Paisalo Digital, which has had a great move in the last 1 week, maybe earlier too, and then a completely different sector, but something we discussed like earlier, power, and Sangvi Movers quite in that space as well. Either of these two charts.
So very strong momentum is taking place in Paisalo Digital, and I think for this, especially in last couple of weeks, a very strong rally we have already witnessed for the stock. Looking at the overall structure, stock is now enjoying its all-time high trajectory, and overall structure seems to be on a bullish side. So we believe that till stock is holding above 175, 180 mark, I think one should hold their long position, and possibly stock can continue its rally, and we can see a target towards 220 to 230 also in the continuation of this up move, as the strong buying action is taking place after this breakout on the longer term time frame also. So Paisalo Digital is looking promising. As you talked about Sangvi Mover, again this stock is also having very strong chart structure across all time frames. Series of higher top, higher bottom formation is taking place, and now stock is penetrating to its previous swing high. So looking at the near-term, short-term structure also, we believe that if stocks are able to sustain about 1230 mark on a closing basis, then we can see a follow-up buying action, and then stock can scale up to the next target towards 1350 to 1400 also in the continuation of this up move. So I think one can look to buy and accumulate this stock also with stop loss of 1170. So Sangvi Mover is also looking promising.
Yes. Niraj, it's funny you mentioned the renewables and the power space. I have some data. Renewable energy in the past 5 years in terms of generation in India has grown at a 5.7% CAGR, while solar has topped at 13.9% in terms of generation, followed by wind, which is at 1.9%. But before we head on to closing, Sony, one last question, and it's regarding metals. Specifically, I want to talk about SAIL, Steel Authority of India, which was up around 8 to 10% in trade yesterday. Any views on SAIL in specific, and maybe just a quick view on Nifty metal as a whole?
So yes, SAIL, if we talk about it, yesterday definitely 10% up. It was backed by very strong, long builder positions yesterday and very aggressive delivery positions. So SAIL, as of now, on a positional basis, it seems to be heading towards 150. That could be the first target on a positional basis, and multiple support. 120, 123 has good support. So any sort of small declines up to 130, 128 can be the ideal range to just re-enter, reinitiate longs, keep your stop losses at 123 and look for targets of 150. So the stock can definitely perform well in the coming days, and can also outperform the rest of these stocks in the same space. Talking about the entire metal space, we've seen a lot of stocks specifically in action yesterday with strong data and very strong long builder positions. The index itself seems to have given a good breakout. So I think the entire pack can do well backed on good rollovers as well. So I think top stocks that can perform well. One, of course, as we just discussed, is SAIL. The other could be Tata Steel. Even Tata Steel has a very strong fresh breakout on charts as well. So, 150, 148 was the level where it was struggling to give the breakout. It has given a good breakout, very strong volumes as well. So, Tata Steel going forward, 170 can be the target, and, you can keep a stop loss of 145.
Both of you, Rajesh, Sony, thank you so much for taking the time out on a Saturday and speaking with us. Really appreciate your time. Have a great remainder of the weekend. All right, that's the view from two experts, and the market's getting ready to close. Just bring up the heat map. I think we were talking about steel and power, and I think there's a powerful move there. As we wrap up, let's just stick with stocks. Tata Steel and Hero MotoCorp, top draw, but Tata Motors, that stock is on the orbit really when it comes to auto stocks the last 12 months, or the Nifty stocks the last 12 months, just has had a fabulous move. I must mark one more stock, that is Geo Financial Services. So I think that stock individually should come up on your screen as well. And then some specific names, 3% higher for Geo Financial Services. Asian Paints, from the time that we did this piece about how maybe paint stocks are oversold, Asian Paints has had a slight steady up move, and which is heartening to see, about 0.789% as the market closes. And just before we wrap, bring up NSE 500 top gainers and losers, and let's see what's happened there. The list pretty much remains the same, but for the fact that Sona BLW and Suven Pharma are higher than where they were when we started off the day. Otherwise, the top two gainers remain Tata Investment and Data Patterns. Mass Financial lower, Swan Energy lower. There is a bit of a pullback in PB Fintech and Info Edge. I reckon this is possibly due to the fact that Google Play has done this thing of putting out some of the apps, and I think the app-based ecosystem is currently in a bit of a quandary. So that is the other pocket to keep in mind. 361, again, maybe because of that. India Assurance, maybe because of that. I would reckon some of these losers would be on account of the sentimental factor around what's happened here. So that's to be kept in mind as well. But interesting session. Nevertheless, there's one more coming up post 11 today, and I think, and we will be there covering that session. My colleagues Samina and Mahima will be here to take you through that special session as well. Maybe a continuation of some of these moves could well happen in that session too. So keep a keen eye out for that. We'll be here with all the market action every single time that markets are open. Thanks so much for tuning into this session.